welcome to another episode of Writings from the Hills. And today we are reading a selection from Ghosthunting Ohio by John Kachuba. Now, the author, John Kachuba, actually has been a visitor to our library. He actually did, a few years ago, a book signing and presentation on his books of Ghosthunting Ohio. And he's a wonderful speaker, and his books are just absolutely fascinating, and it tells a lot about not only just ghost stories but also some of the history of the places in Ohio that he talks about. And I want to give a special thanks. Permission was given to me by the author, John Kachuba, as well as his publisher, Emma's Books. They gave me permission to use their book for our presentation today, so thank you to them. And today I'm actually going to read a short section. The selection I'm going to read today is Columbian House in Waterville, Ohio. Time passes slowly in the little town of Waterville. At Columbian House, it seems to have stopped completely. The three-story clapboard building sits at the corner of River Road and Farnsworth Road. The words Columbian House emblazoned across the triple-door facade in letters 2 foot high. John Pray, Waterville's former founder, built the structure in 1828, originally to serve as a trading post. It has been a prominent local landmark since then and is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The inn's many windows gaze sleepily out the street. They have seen a fantastic parade of humanity over the past 175 years that reflects the transformation of the rough and tumble old Northwest territory into modern-day Ohio. Pioneers and traders, Indians and soldiers, peddlers and drunks, gamblers and politicians, the inn has seen them all. Even if you forget all about the ghost stories associated with Columbian House, the place is interesting and important from an historical point of view, Tom Parker told me when I spoke with him on the phone to arrange a visit with him. Parker, along with his wife Peggy and daughter Meredith, own and operates the inn. But you can't forget about the ghost. A framed 1995 article from Toledo Blade detailing the ghostly history of Columbian House is proudly displayed on the easel in the front parlor. And what a history it was. A vanishing guest, 2 murders, and at least 2 deaths from cholera or other illnesses since the inn was first built. Is it any wonder that at least 3 ghosts are said to haunt the inn? Although Columbian House no longer offers guest rooms, it does still operate as a restaurant. So my wife and I decided to combine our ghost hunting with dinner. When we arrived at 6 o'clock that evening, the place looked dark and closed, but the hand-forged front door latch admitted us inside. I thought I heard a bell ring somewhere inside the inn when we entered, but no one came out to meet us. We stood in the little front parlor. It was dimly lit compared to the bright August sunshine outside, and it took a few moments before our eyes were adjusted enough to see clearly the fireplace with its dark portrait of 19th century gentleman hanging above the mantel. In one corner, against the pale blue wall, stood an antique secretary, crammed with old books about Ohio and its history. An impossibly tall military hat with a shako, all in black, stood attention atop the secretary. The hand-lettered sign described it as a relic of the Toledo War, an 1835 border dispute between the new state of Ohio and the neighboring Michigan territory. Bloodshed was averted in the comic opera because Michigan and Ohio militaries wandered hopelessly lost in the swamps of Perry County, Ohio, and could not find each other. Congress ultimately settled the dispute peacefully in Ohio's favor. A glass-topped wooden display case before the secretary held historic items discovered over the years at the inn. There were pieces of crockery and dinnerware, clay pipes, buttons, thimbles, pins, a knife, part of an Indian moccasin, assorted iron keys, hinges and bolts, and other unidentified objects. Despite the nearness of the road, the quiet of the little parlor was thick as dust, broken only by the creaking and groaning of the wooden floorboards beneath our feet. I heard the indistinct voice coming from somewhere, and ventured into the large dining room off the parlor. I startled Meredith Parker as she came out of the kitchen. Sorry, I didn't hear you come in, she said. My father told me you were coming, and he'll be here a little later to talk to you. The restaurant was just opening for the evening, and even though Mary and I were the only customers at the time, it was obvious that Meredith was preoccupied with her culinary chores. She did have time to tell us there were several ghosts at the inn. She had seen one of them often, a little girl wearing a long, old-fashioned white dress. Sometimes she'll be in the hall, or I might see her for a moment standing in the doorway, Meredith said. Objects will disappear and reappear later in odd places, or will move by themselves. I once saw a clothes hanger fly across the room by itself. As she spoke to us, she kept herself at an odd distance. I wasn't sure if she was simply shy or perhaps she thought we were ghosts. She directed us to a sideboard in the dining room and the display of photos taken of the customers at the inn. A bluish-white mist hovered over the patrons of the photos. As I looked at them, I couldn't prove whether or not the shapes were ghosts, but they were clearly anomalies that didn't belong in the photos. One photo showed a smiling couple posing before the fireplace. A small jack-o'-lantern sat on the mantel behind the woman, just to the right of her head. What are we supposed to see in this photo? Mary asked. Meredith pointed to the lid of the pumpkin. I noticed it was slightly askew. Just as this photo was taken, she said, the lid flew off the pumpkin and landed on the woman's shoulder. What you are seeing in this photo is the moment when the top was lifted off. I watched Meredith's face as she told us these brief stories. There was nothing in her expression that made me doubt her. In fact, she seemed bored by the telling of these stories, as if she had told them 100 times before, and maybe she had. Well, maybe if you'd like to read the rest of John Kachuba and his wife's experience at the Columbian House, or his other stories, you can check out Ghosthunting Ohio by John Kachuba. This copy is actually always kept in our genealogy department on the second floor of the Ironton branch. We also have a copy available to be checked out. Just go to our website at www.briggslibrary.com and you can access our catalog through there. Please remember to subscribe to our Facebook page and to our YouTube channel. And thank you for coming.